listening.
I see where I am in the pecking order against all these awesome guests we've had. So that's cool.
Yeah, it's a default.
I just got to work harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, we don't have anything else to talk about. I just call you in. Welcome to the Marketing Team of One podcast, where we have conversations about the issues one-person marketing teams face when trying to meet their goals with limited time and budgets. Now here's your hosts, Eric and Mike. No, we do have an important topic to talk about, and this kind of riffs off of a previous episode of the podcast where we had Cam and Ryan from Duarte in here to talk about presentations. And it was interesting. I would recommend highly to go back and watch that episode. It was really insightful to hear from, as we've branded them, the greatest presentation designers in the world. I think that was the thumbnail.
Yes.
Wonderful guests. We really appreciated having them on. But it's interesting. Presentations are something, or decks, or however you want to name them, are something that we constantly see coming in the studio. And what's interesting is, starting a couple of months ago, we actually had decks designs come into the studio, and Kurt, a guy on our staff, did one. I did one, and you're doing one.
Yeah.
And what was interesting is we observed that there are really three different types of decks, and it got us to thinking and doing a little bit of research around, like, okay, well, you read some of the books that Duarte gave us. Well, thank you.
Yes.
The team at Duarte.
Our friends gave us a lot of books, and thank you. But yeah, I was doing a deep dive on a lot of those things because I just wanted to learn a little bit more about the structure and how they go about presenting ideas. And
So it was insightful to hear your interpretation of some of the ways that Duarte talks about different formats of their presentations. And it when we started to look at what we were working on, we realized there was at least three different types of decks. There's probably, I don't know, as I did a little bit of research, there's more, right?
Many more, probably. Yeah. Like different people will call them different things too, for sure. But I think everybody just says, "Oh, that's a PowerPoint." Is the way I, think about it, and that kind of that idea that this is the PowerPoint and that PowerPoint's a thing that gets delivered. It's a thing is very present, and it has been for a long, long time. But yeah, I think we've seen so many different PowerPoints over the years and the different types. I mean, the three most recent examples, but even before that, we see, some awful crimes committed inside of PowerPoints too.
Well, yeah, it's one of those tools that's ubiquitous, and it's, tiny children are trained in on slides or PowerPoint.
Yeah, I think my kids had to do it in third grade. They had to start putting things in PowerPoint.
Did they train them thought leadership tactics?
No, I think it's more just, like put a picture on here and put some type here and then move on. That kind of checks out with a lot of the PowerPoints we see today too.
Sounds like stuff we've seen too.
Yeah. But I think instead of like thinking what's the container for our information and what we're trying to share, I think today we wanted to unpack what we see as like three big different formats that could be utilized for different things to better effect than the ones we see a lot.
Yeah, it's interesting because a deck or a PowerPoint or a presentation, there's a couple of different elements to it. There's a performative side of it, there's a data side of it, and there's just kind of this whole kind of package. It's the dance between those two things and how that's presented that is the lever that shows the effectiveness. So how do we start this process with a client when they come to us with all this information?
I like to get an idea of not so much what's this PowerPoint, what's it going to look like? It's more like, okay, how are you delivering this thing? Mm-hmm. And, who are you delivering it to? Like, what's the context that's leading to this? What is this for? What are you trying to sell? Is it an idea? Is it a product? Is it a thing, right? Mm-hmm. Some of those questions will help. It's like a decision tree that you can kind of walk through, right? Like, are you doing a talk in front of an audience? that's one, you'll have a prescription for that type of thing, right? Are you in a smaller audience and you're trying to, sell something to them? It's still a talk, but you need to back something up with a little bit more information. Or are you not in the room? Like, are you trying to send something to somebody either before you have that pitch, so to speak, or is it a leave behind for after your big talk or something? Like, where do you fit in presenting this idea?
Yeah, because some of those, depending on what you're talking about, sometimes they ask you to send it beforehand and they're just going to review it and then they'll make the decision whether they even want you to sit there and present it. So it has to live on its own in a way too.
Exactly. And so, I mean, it could be that depending on what your goal is and what you're doing, you might actually need three different PowerPoints. And maybe even more depending on who your audience is for this thing.
Yeah, so it's really synthesizing what the controlling idea is of what you're trying to do. What's the main goal for this? Looking at your audience and how is it going to be digested or consumed on the other side of the table, and then designing it to optimize for those few things. And there's a couple of different processes that really, it's a simple. You can ask simple questions to get to that, obviously, and you'll understand where you're going for that. But should we start walking through the three formats that we're talking about?
Yeah, I think these are kind of three primary formats. There's a bunch of other formats, but these are kind of three little buckets I think we would put a lot of PowerPoints into.
So the first ones that I've seen that comes to mind, and I think that is part of the cultural zeitgeist, is the keynote. And that's something that pop culture has, you've seen Steve Jobs do his keynotes and it's very performative. TED Talks, another perfect one. Exactly. Yeah. A lot of them are marked by minimal information on slides.
Yeah.
It's more of you're focusing on the person who's giving the talk.
Yes. Yeah.
You're focused on them. There's probably a lot of speaker notes.
Yes.
And not a lot of text on the screen. Yeah. There might be data, infographic, chart, very simple visuals, though.
It's probably safe to say that the image, you're not leading with the thing that's projected behind you.
Right.
It's supporting what you're talking about, what you're presenting.
Yeah.
It's not leading.
It could almost be a counter to what you're saying, too, if you want to put together something that
part of the storytelling arc or something like that. Yeah.
Something that builds tension. Like, what am I looking at? And then you speak something contrary, maybe. That speaks to that a little bit. And those can be, usually keynotes are 45 minutes, an hour, maybe something like that. And
or maybe 20 minutes. I mean,
maybe 20 minutes, like a TED Talk is 20 minutes. Yeah, that's true. But again, it leans heavily on really consolidating that information that you're putting on the slides themselves, and then you're putting a lot into those speaker notes. Highly recommend if you're doing that, and this is something that the Duarte team said when they were sitting here, practice. Relies very heavily on the actual presenter knowing how to do it and performing it, right? Yeah. It's very much a performative exercise.
It is. But I think an important thing in there too is actually focusing on the arc of what you're talking about and the storytelling of your talk, right? And like building in those things. And that you don't need any kind of PowerPoint or Google Slides or any of that software, like just putting it together in notes and outlining it or Post-it notes or whatever, like really get that and know that the visuals that you end up creating are supporting what you're talking about. They're not driving what you're talking about.
Yeah, and there's usually a pretty solid, look at the classic TED Talks. There's the hook at the beginning that you really draw people in with. It's usually some sort of storytelling element or something contrary that shocks people, brings them, draws them in immediately so they lean into what you're saying. And then you go in and you present your case, your controlling idea, and then back that up with some evidence. Maybe, that's also storytelling. And then you finish with the big, here's what I'm going to tell you. Here's, what I'm going to tell you again. And then finish with here's what I just told you. And here's why. Just to refer back to our friends at Duarte again, the book that Nancy wrote on that is called Resonate.
Yep.
she
very
talks.
Good, very good about. And really, it's all about the arc, crafting that arc that you're gonna for the presentation, and how to structure your presentation for impact.
All right, you worked on a presentation. Let's talk about the second kind, because this was kind of new to me. You kind of had to teach me this a little bit, and this again comes from our friends at Duarte. Thank you.
I think so what they created this idea, or trademarked this idea of something called a slide doc. And
slide doc.
Okay. And I think it's brilliant on a number of ways. One, they're acknowledging that people's natural inclination is to throw everything into a PowerPoint, throw all the details into a PowerPoint, okay. Right? So, which people do, which is really where a lot of PowerPoints or presentations fail, is that people are trying to put all their information on every slide.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they're trying to present it. And there's too many words in there that distract people from the talking and everything. So I think the slide doc is the perfect thing to work on if you can't be in the room, if you're not in the room and you're trying to communicate an idea or provide information, like background information to somebody. So it could be a great complement to your keynote. Or it could be something that could be great to hand to somebody before to get them to understand what's going on. So it's
data rich. It's very full. You showed me the one you were working on, and it's a lot of text on each slide.
Yeah.
It's really in one way you explained to me, think of it as a publication almost.
It is very much like a publication in my mind. But I think a lot of the key principles of like good presentation design are baked into this, right? Like, don't just like go willy-nilly and start throwing stuff onto slides and everything like that. Really like have one idea you're trying to get across with every slide you're creating. Okay. And provide the detail you can, but also break it up, make it so people do want to read. It's a lot of graphic design principles applied to this, that you want to make it engaging. You want to make the what you're writing, the writing in it, to be concise and easy to read. Structure a lot of things in there, knowing that a lot of people aren't going to read the whole thing. So a lot of the stuff that Duarte talks about in this format is letting a title and like a takeaway line that's on every slide reward those who are just trying to get a quick glance at everything. They can scan everything.
Boom, boom, boom. Okay.
Then having images, charts, visuals to help draw people in to read deeper details into each one of those helps reward those who want a deeper information about it. So there's a perfect thing it's a perfect format, I think, for when you're not presenting, like you're not in the room. And you can't be for whatever reason.
It's almost designed from what I saw, what you were designing to me. I don't know how I would present that presentation.
There's so much, it's so visually rich in copy and visuals that no one would be listening to. A lot of people would not be listening to you if you were trying to present this and project this. And in fact, I would never project a slide doc.
But the way you laid out your slide doc was interesting. Like, and just to go back to what you said, there's basically a headline, a controlling idea for each slide.
Yep.
Then there's almost like a subhead that helps just fill in the blanks in like one sentence.
Yep.
Here's what this slide's about, a little bit deeper detail. Then it's almost like layered pieces of information on one slide.
If you go to Duarte's website and sign up, look this up. They have another thing that I just thought was brilliant is they created a slide doc to describe slide docs.
Love that.
It was very meta. So you can download this PowerPoint and see how they created this slide doc, and it teaches you all the things to create a slide doc. Nice. I mean, it's deep. It's dense. It's free. Like, sign up, and then you get the emails every week that are all really good. They've really done a great job of
shout out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
But I think it's a great format. It's probably not one that people would think of a lot. It does border on almost like magazine design to a certain extent, like the way you would do editorial design. But a lot of it comes down to thinking about having one, like you said, one controlling idea per slide, but also make sure that all those fit into a sensible kind of arc, and that you are kind of unveiling a story. So it all feels like it's all heading towards
kind of
a conclusion.
That story structure that we're talking about with Keynote, even, where you might want to start with a hook or the main idea, then you kind of get into the data a little bit, or what's the goal of this presentation, and then you start to build in like the supporting story, and then you finish with, and here's how call to action-ish.
Yeah.
Is that kind of how you would structure it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, and it's been a fun format. I keep trying to think of other places where I can play with this idea in this format, to help give a little bit deeper context to some of these ideas, some of the things that are hard to convey when you're not in the room.
Yeah, because I think somehow, some presentations, when you get into them, there's the performative version of it, and then there's like, okay, well, give me the white paper, or give me the details after the fact, or give me the 45-page research thing that you did so that I can kind of really dive in. Now that I'm hooked and I'm interested and I want to learn more, this is a product that does both in my mind. I mean, it really it's a lot. You can really learn a lot about everything in that. And seems like depending on what you're trying to tell, you could build ones. I think the one that they did from Duarte is over 100 slides or something.
It's really long.
It's
big. I mean, the sample one, I wouldn't be surprised it's over 65 pages, might be a little bit more. But it's covering how to go about writing it, how to go about editing existing PowerPoint slides that are the bad ones that we're talking about,
right.
Like how to design things. Here's where, here's why there's like very good, very solid graphic design concepts in there as well.
Which is a huge part of it, because you have to drive the visuals to drive people's eyes to follow the storyline and not distract them and not send them off on. So that's why design is really important. And I think a lot of people, when they begin the process, they just dump information into a slide. So this is the information-rich version of one. It makes me think pitch deck immediately. I make the equation to that. And it reminds me of another guest on the show, Mr. Guy Kawasaki. Thank you for being. He wrote a book called The Art of the Start. I talked about it on the interview podcast that I did with him. Go back into our previous episodes to go listen to him. Thought leader, genius, wonderful human being. He kind of revolutionized, I don't know if that's the point, but back in 2005, 2006, Silicon Valley, he was a VC. He was very entrenched in the VC world. And I think to this day, the VC world still runs on what they call a pitch deck. And there's a standard format for this, which is very, very prescriptive in how you build a pitch deck. And it's kind of an abbreviated version of what you're talking about. It's meant more for quick review, go through, show me every element of it in like one concise little data point. It's a very prescribed structure to how to do it that is really isolating your idea that you want to make a business case for potential investors to show more interest around. Yeah. It's nothing that they're going to look at and start signing contracts or anything like that. All it is really kind of a fishing exercise in a sense, where you're trying to gain interest in your idea, whether it's a startup or an app or a product or something like that. There's only 10 slides. So you only have 10 slides to tell this story. And each slide is exactly, do this on slide 3, do this on slide 4. There's no deviation from it.
Interesting.
Very, very structured. But he pioneered the idea of the 10-20-30 rule. 10 slides. Again, go back, look at the show notes. You can see what they are. 20 minutes. That's all you have to talk it through. So again, there's a performative side to this that, it should live on its own, but it's also, you have 20 minutes to tell the story of this pitch deck, go through all the details. And an interesting design decision, the 30 stands for nothing smaller than 30-point type. so that you're very limited as to how much information you can put on that slide. You know, when we've seen people try to do decks before, it's really interesting to see how different people and different experts think of how people want to consume their deck. And having that 30-point type rule is great because that's really what most human beings can kind of digest when looking at a slide as it's being presented, maybe in a room or on a webinar or on a Zoom.
So it's kind of in the middle of what we were talking about, like the keynote and everything. So is this meant to, with this pitch deck, are you always present when this is given?
A lot of pitch decks are printed out and sent, and they're meant to be flipped through first.
Interesting.
And what they'll do is that will indicate enough information so that an investor or a business partner or somebody who's going to come in and help you with this project gets them interested enough. And then, you know, it's designed around the VC world. VCs are presented with hundreds of ideas a week from wherever because they have all the money and they, you know, have some insights and expertise that they want to help, you know, make the world a better place through technology or whatever their focus is. And so they have to review things very quickly. And that's why Guy Kawasaki came up with this format. Was he was a VC and spent a lot of time reviewing deck. I think there's room to play in that space a little bit. If you're not presenting to a VC or something like that, it's still a very compelling format. You can add slides, take some out, stick to some of the general rules around that. But that, I think, is still a really helpful way to think about how to create your presentation.
Yeah.
It is a cross between a keynote and a slide doc. You know, those I think are the two ends of the spectrum in my mind.
Yep.
This is a good way to structure it. And I think that goes back to kind of the fourth format, which would be just the default. You know, here's a cover slide. Here's my 4 or 5 chapters that I'm going to talk about. Here's how I'm going to present a data slide. Here's how I'm going to do a bullet point slide. You know, I think if you use this pitch deck model when creating your default deck, it will help you to simplify and refine because everybody's instinct is to put everything into the slide.
Yeah.
I think you still need to simplify the ideas down and keep it very concise, going back to that pitch deck model, but maybe it is 30 slides or 40 slides that will be, you know, consumed over the course of maybe an hour-long webinar. You're hitting all the main points. You're still talking through a lot of the main points, but the supporting data is there on a slide itself.
It's supporting your presentation. It's not leading it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And please practice, 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 and don't read me your deck.
Oh, gosh.
How many times have we sat there and watched somebody read through the bullet points on their PowerPoint?
Yeah.
I hope we're moved beyond that at this point in society, but
who knows? It's
no.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. But I think the hardest part of everything we've talked about is the consolidating information and being concise, and that's a hard thing to do.
How do you go about doing that as one who's just built a deck? Well, what process helped you?
I do kind of go back to the beginning of like, okay, who's this for and what are we trying to communicate, right? And so really lock in on what is the lead behind it. When this is all done, when they're done, what do we want them to be left with? Is it do we want them to take action? Do we want them to be better informed about something? Mm-hmm. Like really, that's exactly what you need to follow. That it's all your decisions for the rest of the thing have to run through that. Is this helping support it? And if it's not, it's an instant drop, right? Then I try and thinking about like, okay, as we're yes, there's a whole bunch of things we need to convey within that controlling idea. Like what do they need to know first? What do they need to know second? Trying to provide some order for those types of things.
Yeah.
But then also scrutinize like what can be dropped, or what can, what felt important but maybe isn't as important. Mm-hmm. Like one I recently did, we did a draft and we did an outline of all these things, and there's 2 or 3 slides in there. And then what we realized was that we had seen that as an important thing as we went through things, but as we read it from the beginning and we looked at the controlling thing of what we're trying to get across, that was actually, it could be seen as coming out of left field. We're like, well, wait, what does that have to do with anything, right?
Distracting.
So like being really critical about like, and very choosy and editing out things that just don't serve that higher narrative is essential. And don't get rid of it completely. I'm sure some of those ideas do have a time and a place, but they might not be for that thing that you're trying to
there's this leave behind element that makes sense. Whether the deck is the leave behind or having a separate piece that's a leave behind, that that could be a white paper, that could be a gigantic document. That if they want to dive into it, great. Here's everything. That way, we've not left anything out. You're interested, great, or you've got questions, or you want to dive deeper, perfect. Here's a piece for that.
Yeah, I mean, like you talked about pitch decks, right? Like, I think the main thing is to like whet people's appetite for what you're trying to sell, right? And then no one's going to buy it based on the deck alone. I mean,
right.
I know when you watch Shark Tank and they make a deal, everybody thinks that the deal is like done, but no, there's so many other things that that need to be checked out. So like the idea that your pitch deck is really like the door, get them on that. They open the door to maybe reading your full business plan or some of the other important details, those leave behinds, right? But like, it's about assessing what is the goal we have for this thing. And
a lot of what I've seen happen too, which I saw you going through this, and I've done this as well. Little sticky notes, not the big ones, the little tiny ones really are helpful, because that helps you limit. Think of each of those sticky notes as a slide.
Yeah. This is what we want to talk about. Yep. This is what we need to talk about here. And what it does, might want to reorganize them.
Exactly. It helps you design the flow of your presentation a lot better.
Yeah. And don't get too stuck in it too, even after you write all the stuff that's on there, or as little is on there.
Yeah.
Just kind of think about it. Okay, does that make sense? What are they going to need to know next to get to that conclusion of where our goal is, of what our goal is?
You move up to the next size Post-it, and there's you put your 2 or 3 bullet points on there, and then that's how you finish building that. But I think that's the hardest part for a lot of our, and that's why they come to us to help them understand what is important, because a lot of people think everything's important.
Yep.
And when you're inside the jar, as I like to always say, it's really hard, because maybe you've worked really hard on figuring out one part of this story.
Yeah.
And you're really married to it, and it's important, and it's got a time and a place, but maybe it's not in the pitch deck.
Yeah.
And that's hard for people to give up with that after the pain of birthing that concept or that idea or that part of your plan, to put that aside and maybe reserve that for a different time. That might be really difficult for people to.
And I think a lot of it is just know that like the reason we're putting these things together is because we are trying to sell an idea, or we're trying to sell a thing, right? And that in order to do that effectively, you need to leave an impact one way or another.
Yeah.
Right? Like you need the idea to take root in people's heads, or for them to be inspired by the idea or something.
The other part to that puzzle is really understanding. And again, we'll go back to know your audience. What do they care about? Sometimes they're super busy people that only care about these 2 or 3 things. And if you don't talk about those 2 or 3 things, or one thing, it's irrelevant. You know, you're just distracting them and wasting their time, and they might even get mad.
Yeah. So I think that making sure, like, that's where having an outside eye, it doesn't have to be necessarily a designer, but having other people like look at it from the outside perspective, get you out of the jar and kind of question some of the things that are in there will help make your presentation stronger, whatever format you've chosen to.
And it may take 3, 4, 5 different types of decks depending on what that audience is.
Yeah.
And if it's very specific, then be as specific as you can to what they care about. Yep. And then that will be a much more relevant, effective tool for what you're doing. All right. We've said a lot of things here, Mike.
We do that.
Yeah. We like to talk. Let's do a recap then and get back to it. So what did we talk about?
So don't do what most people do. Don't open up PowerPoint and just dump your ideas in there and then present all those. Don't read from the slides, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Before you do that, take a step back. Think about, how is this being delivered? Are you giving it to a big group of people at a keynote? Are you giving it to a smaller group of people that you're trying to sell an idea or a project to? Are you not even in the room? Is this something you're sending over an email to somebody?
Yeah.
Like, think about that, who that delivery is.
Okay.
The delivery device. And then also think about like the goals of what you're trying to get across. Like, are you just trying to communicate an idea? Are you trying to sell something that needs more data or more backup? Think about those things. Start outlining those things. And those should make your decisions for the delivery format that works best. So don't use a text-heavy slide if you're giving a keynote. And don't give a keynote if people are expecting a lot of details and something that you send to them through an email.
That sounds like a really good, concise, and there is levers in between. There's
absolutely
the pitch deck could be that, or it could be very specific to that pitch deck model that was outlined by Kawasaki, or it could be a little bit more expanded version of that, a hybrid potentially keynote plus pitch deck type thing. I think the main thing too is understand that if you are in the room and you are performing it, there should be some element of inspiration behind this. There should be the idea that you're not convincing or trying to convince people, but that you're inspiring something behind this, whether that's change or a new way of thinking or a new way of doing something. I think that's what has really helped bring the presentation itself as an important piece of a cultural impact at this point, right?
Yeah.
We've seen so many amazing, wonderful things. And our friends at Duarte, we just want to say again, thank you so much for helping us and helping the world understand what presentations can do for business and for society in general. But
absolutely.
You've been inspired. We appreciated having them on there. And most of what we've talked about, you can find on their website. We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah. It's been fantastic. So,
All right. Present. Right on.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. This sounds like a good spot to stop.
Sounds perfect. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. For more information and other episodes, subscribe to the Marketing Team of One podcast on YouTube, Apple, or Spotify podcast networks. You can also chat with us on the r/Marketing Team of One subreddit or visit marketingteamofone.com to learn more.